Hello everyone, a very warm welcome to you. My name is Nick and you might be aware that this is going to be a Q&A. Yes, I asked for a few questions and a previous few other vlogs, and the response as per other Q&As has been absolutely phenomenal, so thank you for all your varied questions. Some are crazy, some are sensible, but we've got a real mix here. Now I've picked out about 14 to 15 of them only because I'm worried about the length of the video, so if your question doesn't get read out here, it's most likely it's going to get answered in a future Q&A. This may very well be 3 parts. Now, we're not going to do one a week. We'll probably do another one Monday and another one Tuesday if it takes that long to get through, because I'm quite keen to answer all these questions that you've kindly put down. Now, the reason why we're not doing it all in one video as well is the video will probably last over an hour if I did that, maybe longer, and the time it would take to upload that means we won't see the video until about 3 o'clock in the morning the next day. So yeah, so you wouldn't really get a chance to watch it for other stuff happens, but that's what we're going to aim for. So as I say, don't worry if your question isn't mentioned. I have written down every question that was asked to me, so it might actually happen on a future one. So starting from the top, and this is quite a long question first of all from Krun. He says, how do you compare the Amiga library of games compared to its later console rivals like the SNES and the Megadrive? To me, to Krun, the Amiga has a much more diverse catalogue, but when it comes to games popular at the time like platformers or fighting games, the consoles definitely seem to have the upper hand. Well, that's a very tricky question, because I'm only just getting used to the Sega Mega Drive now, and the SNES, I don't know too many games on that particular system. Now, with the Commodore Amiga, there's thousands and thousands of games on that system, as they were on the ZX Spectrum, and quite a lively homebrew market as well. So a lot of the games are going to be quite amateurish. If I was going to be 100% honest, on the Commodore Amiga, there's a very, very, very small amount of games that are brilliant, then there's a few that are good, and then the rest is pretty much dross or poor conversions. US Gold are pretty much responsible for a lot of that guff. Now, the way the Amiga struggled compared to the consoles is the joysticks generally was one fire button, so in fighting games you could only select one direction and fire button, so it limited a little bit, where the consoles won over because there's like a combination of things you can actually do. Now overall, because I grew up with the Commodore Amiga, I do prefer that as a computer over to the consoles, but everything I've played so far on the Sega Mega Drive, or Genesis as it's known in the States, was absolutely fantastic. So, you know, if I was pushed to compare the two, I'd go with the Amiga over the Sega Mega Drive, but the Mega Drive seems good. It seems to cope with arcade games a bit better, and all round it tends to be a bit quicker. So painfully as to say, I go with the Amiga, but I suspect the Sega Mega Drive might have slightly higher quality when you look at everything overall together. Sacrilege, I know, but there we go, I've got to be honest. Kingston LJ, you've asked a few questions here, but we'll answer a couple here and maybe do another couple on the future Q&As tomorrow or the next day. Who is your favourite singer out of, now I don't know why you picked these 3, maybe I've mentioned them before in jokes, but who's your favourite singer out of Beyonce, Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston? Now I have to admit, I don't own any albums of any of these 3. They're sort of like similar sort of divas, aren't they? Beyonce is probably the nicest on the eye. Did like watching her acting in Austin Powers Goldmember, which I love those Austin Powers films. Mariah Carey, I don't think I really get on with her. I think it was at a restaurant she'd walk out before the end, or I would. And then Whitney Houston. I'd go, just for that retro element, I'll go with Whitney Houston as my favourite out of those 3. She wants to dance with Bill Oddie, who loves her. So I hope that worked out in the end for her. So we go Whitney Houston on that one, Kingston. And your second question, which is sort of like linked to that a little bit. Who was the second best male pop star of the 80s after Michael Jackson? Well, you know I'm a Michael Jackson fan. I do like a good dance. Singing not so great, as you know. Yes, so who's the second? Well, there's so many to choose from. I like Freddie Mercury, but he was in a part of Queen, so I guess you're looking for solo acts, are you, from there? So that rules out like Mick Jagger, with Rolling Stones. David Bowie is really up there. I'd go with him. He was slightly edgy over Prince to me. I'd go for David Bowie, or Bowie, however you want to pronounce it. So I put him in second place, but I always change my mind of this order because there's so many good songs out there, isn't there? So many great songs to get behind. Okay, good. Scott Barnes, he asks, how are you enjoying the summer? It's like a two-parter question, this one. How are you enjoying the summer? Well, it's been a bit too hot, hasn't it, really? If you've been following some of the diary cam vids we've done, I say we, it's just me, isn't it? I've done. It's hot, hot, hot. Now, it isn't just the heat that kills you, it's the relative humidity. I'm all for a good summer, but it needs rain every now and again, and it's been getting a bit silly. Now, a little bit, we did have rain eventually after 55 days here, but I'm worried it's building up again, because it is getting rather hot, and I don't want the same thing to happen again, because the energy does sap you. So I am enjoying the summer. I'm working a lot of it, doing this channel, keeping that running, but I don't want it being too hot. So okay, it's okay. And also Scott asks, what do you think... Oh no, this wasn't connected to that at all. He asks, what do you think of channel Formula 1 coverage? I better paraphrase this because it's quite a long question. In general for 2019, so the TV coverage for 2019 and 2018. Apparently half the races are going to be live, half of them extended highlights. I do like Formula 1. It's changed a little bit since Liberty Media took over, buying out the rights from Bernie Eccleston. And yeah, he wants to know what the sort of like arrangement is for the following season, 2019, and if anyone knows, can they tell Scott or answer in the comment section. I don't really know. I used to like it when every race was on live. Now it's just the British Grand Prix, so I don't really know what the arrangement is. It's all about big money, isn't it, nowadays? So you're looking at Sky. Half the races live. I mean, if I could do, which is never ever going to happen unless I get rich doing this, I'd like to go to every Formula 1 race, or as many as I could round the world, maybe be in the guest of McLaren or Ferrari or some other big team, and they lay on expensive dinners and free travel, maybe. But yeah, I don't know what the deal is there, Scott. Maybe someone can answer that. But I do like watching the races. Some are a lot better than others. Never actually been to a Grand Prix, but I would like to go. So I sort of like didn't really answer that question, but hopefully someone else could answer that for me. Another Scott Ager. He asks, is there any game you think was better on 8-bit computers rather than 16-bit or 32-bit computers? And he mentioned a game called Feud was better on the ZX Spectrum than the Amiga he found. That's a very good question as well. I mean, of course, there's a lot where, especially on the ZX Spectrum and the end of the 8-bit era, they're struggling to convert 16-bit games in competition with them. Quite often the 16-bit or 32-bit are trying to accomplish too much to represent an arcade conversion, and the 8-bit would trim it down and end up with better gameplay. And that happened quite a few times. Most notably, I would say, with a game called Power Drift. And I like that on the 8-bit system, the Commodore 64 and the ZX Spectrum, which I reviewed a little while ago. Commodore Amiga was trying to do way too much with the polygons. It slowed down, it was a mess to the eye, and you couldn't really see what was going on a lot of the time, and that was quite painful to play. So I definitely put Power Drift up there. There's probably a number of other ones. I put Attic Attack there too, because that's one of my favourite games of all time on the ZX Spectrum. There was never an official release on the Commodore Amiga, so maybe it's a bit unfair for me to compare the two. But public domain games were big at the time. That's why the Amiga game catalogue is so huge with iffy games. And one of the iffy games was Attic Attack that someone tried to do, with just controlling a red spot around the castle. And it tried to be Attic Attack, but it was really, really poor. I think it stole some of the sounds as well. So that as well. And one of the big ones, I'd say out of all of the ones, actually, the biggest disappointment where 16-bit wasn't quite as good as 8-bit, not quite so sure about 32-bit, was Jet Set Willy. That was an absolutely fantastic game on the ZX Spectrum, which I grew up with. Not quite so good on the Commodore 64, because they tried to cut a few corners, and Matt Smith wasn't really involved a great deal for those ones, and then there's problems with it. But the 16-bit Jet Set Willy is they try to invent the wheel with it. Instead of being flip screen, that the screen's scrolling along, and it hasn't got the sort of like feel to it, the love of it that you would generally associate with that sort of thing. So Jet Set Willy probably 1, Power Drift 2, Attic Attack 3. Maybe unfair of me to mention this one as well, but the Dizzy games were good. They're well converted on the 16-bit and the Commodore Amiga, but their home for me was the 8-bit computer system, and I much prefer Dizzy on 8-bit computers, although there was a lot of them. I haven't reviewed it on the Commodore 64 yet, as it did on the Commodore Amiga, because it looked like the Commodore Amiga was underpowered to try and do that, and should have been doing other things, and should have left that to the ZX Spectrum, which excelled on those sort of cute platformy games. So yeah, so in summary then, Power Drift, Attack Attack, Jet Set Willy and Dizzy, but I'm sure there's a lot of other ones. Commando as well. I like that on the 8-bit rather than the 16-bit. I just like the playability, and the you could shoot further on the Spectrum one as well. So there we go. Good question there. Next question from 322 Tor, T-O-R. If you could choose to have a painting, well, this is a bit highbrow now. If you could choose to have any painting from any artist, which painting would you have on your wall? And then puts in brackets, without the possibility of selling. So it's not for financial gain, it's just because you like the painting. Okay, well recently we did, it's like a comedy short series of 6, if you haven't seen those, take a look at them, called Art Scene, with Igor the Thunderdwarf, who didn't really understand art a great deal. We looked at various bits of art, amongst there was The Laughing Cavalier, I'm struggling to remember now, The Scream by Edvard Munch, Lady with the Green Handbag, no that isn't it, or Strange Hat, it was by Pablo Picasso I think, that one, and there was Starry Starry Night by Van Gogh, so there's quite a few, and The Last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci as I'm remembering it. It's maybe a bit of a cliche, maybe a bit obvious. I'd like to have, yeah, that Scream is a good painting, but I think that might freak me out really. So when it comes to classics, to impress people when they come round, hanging on my wall, I'd like to have the most famous painting ever, which is the Mona Lisa. There's a Salvador Dali painting as well with the clocks. There's quite a lot of clock ones. I wouldn't mind a couple of those, but I can't remember what they're called for the time being. But we go with something classic. The Mona Lisa will be a good one to have hanging on my wall. Worth a fortune, but as the premise of this is, it's not for financial gain. I would like having that there. That would make me quite happy. I'd walk in and look at it and think, yes, I've made it. I've got the Mona Lisa. And very little is known about that woman. She's got an odd smile. Some people say it's Michelangelo himself. I'm not so sure about that. Who was this woman? Was it even a woman? Who knows? So we'll go there for the Mona Lisa. Okie dokie. Interghost asked quite a few questions. We'll cover a couple here, I think. So he asks, this is such a good question. If you could live in an 80s cartoon, right, as yourself, right, so you can't be anywhere else, I've got to be me in this cartoon, which one would it be and why? Now there's a lot of dangerous cartoons out there, isn't there really? Remember, I'm me, so it can't be like He-Man Masters of the Universe, because that was made just to sell toys. So you get He-Man, Man-at-Arms, and Nick with detachable hat. I don't think that would be a big seller really. Thundercats as well. I couldn't wield a sword around. I'd probably get really tired and get killed off. So any dangerous cartoons are out. Simpsons, you could be quite nondescript there and live out your life, but it'd be mad. And no one ages. If you notice, no one ages in The Simpsons. They all stay the same age. So that might be not so bad. I started off at the same age as Bart Simpson, and now I'm older than Homer Simpson, and one day I'll be older than Abe Simpson, the granddad. So yeah, so Simpson. But out of all these, I'll probably go for quite a weird one. I'd go for Scooby-Doo. Just because I like the look of that Daphne, and I think I'd fit well in that gang. So you've got Shaggy and Scooby doing all that sort of stuff. If I could like bump off Ken, I'm not sure how I would do this in a cartoon, but I'll kill Ken and I'll take his place. So the girls always look up to him. Shaggy and Scooby follow his lead. And I'd know offhand the first person you see in the cartoon is probably the person that done the murder or whatever it is they're up to that week. And I just act clever and generally just take all the plaudits for solving the crimes, although generally it's Scooby and Shaggy. So I'll go with Scooby-Doo. Failing that, the wacky races, but I need some upgrades to my car to keep up with Dick Dastardly, Muttley and whoever it is. Penelope Pitstop, that'd be quite good to run into her. But yeah, so we'll go with Scooby-Doo into Ghost, if that's okay. Right. Next up on the questions, another one from the Interghost man. What sort of YouTube channel would you have made as a kid if the internet was a thing back then? Okay, now, if the internet was a thing back then, I probably would use it quite a lot. I wish when it first came out 10 years ago I was aware that you could do it as a living, then I would have pushed a lot back then, because it was back then people were less aware of it as eventually an earnings platform, and you could have massive growth because there wasn't too many people doing it. So basically, if this was 10 years ago, I could put up a video like this. This is probably going to get anywhere in the region to about 100 to 200 views, I would have thought. Back in the day, if I put this up, it would have probably gone to 5,000, 6,000 quite quickly. But there you go. That's forethought for you. We should have bought Bitcoin. We should have invested in Apple and all that sort of stuff. But you can't go back. You can't go back. What was the question again? Yes, what sort of channel would I run? Well, I'm a kid, bearing in mind that. You can't be... There's a rule on YouTube, which we'll ignore for this, but you can't have a channel unless you're over 18, but you see lots of channels where people are under 18. But anyway, what you going to do? What's the... I would do one, probably just filming my mates. We'd probably do food challenges where I eat mustard, penalty shootouts. I'll film sports days, and we'll just do pranks and messing around generally. So it wouldn't be very serious. There probably wouldn't be any games involved, and it would all be outside, just kids walking around the street and generally being pretty stupid. But that seems to be the sort of thing that nowadays the internet wants. So dumbing down and being stupid, it might turn me into an internet millionaire or something, and we can reference back this. Sometimes I think, should I just completely dumb down and be stupid and just get really overly excited about stuff? Maybe that is the way forward. But no, you've got to keep true to yourself, but you can only keep true to yourself for a certain amount of time. That kids channel I would have had lots of skateboard accidents as well, and stuff where I'd loosen all the screws on someone's bike, and then they got on it and it fell apart. What a channel that would have been. I want to subscribe to that. Where's that channel? Okay, next up, moving on. Now, James E1, thank you, sir. You've answered quite a lot, asked quite a lot of questions. I'll cover 3 for this particular segment. Right, okay, so these are like your standards, really. What type of music do you like? Well, we've already mentioned briefly Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey and Beyonce, which I'm not strongly into. But I like, we covered it a little bit as well, I like sort of like music which is good to dance to, got a rhythm to it, got a bit of a beat to it. So you're looking at Michael Jackson, Jackson 5, Motown, I'm big into that. I do like some jazz music, although you can't dance to that a great deal. And there's a dragonfly flying around. Where the hell did that come from? Did that get on the screen? I don't think it did. That's thrown me off now. Blues music, and this is like the odd song with a... if it's got a great bass line on it, I love it. I like a lot of Rolling Stones music, Hendrix guitars, goes on Beatles. I listen to a lot of remixes on YouTube as well, where people try to gel 2 sorts of songs together. I think there's ZZ Top and who sings that Gimme Gimme? ABBA. Some work a lot better than others. Yeah, so anything that makes you happy and zips you up, I'm a fan of. So that sort of music, really. Yes, a lot of different genres. I like a lot of classical music. That's very uplifting. Film scores, yeah, a big range. Okay. Now, what got you interested following football and Formula 1? I think as a guy, it's quite unusual nowadays if you're not into football, because I'm not into it as much as some people, but generally at school, you get to kicking a ball around the place and you pretend that you're a player and everyone asks you what your favourite team is and all that sort of stuff. So probably just growing up, a natural got into football. I don't have to watch every game. Sometimes I'm watching one on the TV and I will just walk off because I'm bored. I'm more into Formula 1 than football, although I will follow the football there. Formula 1's good. I keep up with the news. Like recently, Ricciardo is not actually signing for Red Bull next season. He's going to Renault, which seems a bit of an odd decision because Renault seems like they've got to make up a bit of a gap. So we'll see if that works out for him. Apparently he's raced for Renault before in other categories and always been successful, but Formula 1 is something a little bit different. Formula 1, what really got me into it is the characters at the time, Ayrton Senna in particular, that red and white McLaren, that was so majestic going forward. Yeah, Nigel Mansell, and it seemed to be a bit rawer and rougher back then, so that's what got me into it. And of course Murray Walker's commentary. And Formula 1 was more accessible back then. It was on the BBC, you didn't have to pay for it. Every race was there without any adverts on it. And it was an exciting thing to watch, essentially. Okay, thank you. And James, he also asked, do you like any other kinds of sports? Yeah, loads. I did quite a lot of swimming in my time. I am into that. Athletics, I'm a big fan there. Your 100 metres, decathlon, 200 metres, everything on the track. Mo Farah, javelin. anything competitive I'm generally a fan of. Hockey, I watch that if that's on. I'd like to be more into rugby than I have been, but I struggle to get into that. And American football, I've had a few attempts to get into that, but I can never quite get into it because it's too stop and starty. Speedball 2, is that a sport yet? I'd like to be into that. But there's a wide range of things. Motorsport's always good if there's a lot of overtaking. Touring cars doesn't seem to be on standard TV anymore because I haven't got cable or Sky, so I just rely on what the BBC or ITV or Channel 4 or 5 dish up, or any of those other free channels. I watched the London Marathon when that's on, but not the whole thing, of course. Always wanted to run a London Marathon, but it's finding the time to train and all that, and it's very, very hot, isn't it, at the moment? So there we go. Thank you very much. Graham McKenzie, he asks, what's been to date your most popular video? This is quite easy to find out, really. If you go on the channel, you can filter it by most popular. And this will quite surprise people who haven't done this. The most popular video is a video that went back up in the old days, where it's easy to get lots of views on YouTube. It's a video that's got no commentary. It's really, really short. The quality is really, really poor. And even now, every month, it has the most views out of anything I put up. Just last month it got 3 times as many views as the next video down, the new stuff. So if I put up lots of videos like that back in the day, admittedly I could probably make a living from YouTube. If I put 200 videos out at that time similar to that and they all embedded like that one did, I could make a living. And that's so weird, isn't it? You need to get any new technology, get in early. But what it is, it's very poor footage of Super Mario. It's a Game Boy Advance game. Super Mario Super Circuit, I think that's what it's called. And you know, I since about 4 or 5 years later, I since put up on the reboot of the channel, I did a series of those videos with commentary on, thinking, yeah, okay, if that one's got this amount, this will get that amount as well, and they never did. So you know, there's a select amount of videos that people put up in that era that boom, really took place, and it might be embedded in quite a few websites as well. So just as the internet was like growing and things picked up speed, now it's like leveled off really. So yeah, Game Boy Advance game, awful video. Probably gets about 600 views a month or something stupid like that, but still amazing. Because normally what happens is a video will get its most views in the first 3 days, then it really drop unless someone's particularly searching for that particular video. Okay, thank you very much. And on to Squidworth. We'll cover one here. Another great question here. If you could only play one platform, so one gaming platform, for the rest of your life, which one would it be? And an even harder question, which game would you choose to go with it? Oh, there's a caveat here as well. Not a PC, because that would be too easy with all the emulators. Oh, that was my easy get out question. Okay, so, tricky now. Now, my favourite game of all time, as you know, is Attic Attack, so I'm quite tempted to say the ZX Spectrum, or that would quite heat up and need lots of repairs. I've got to think, if I've only got one game, I could get quickly bored, so I'm going to need something for quite a lot of variety, because although I love Attic Attack, I can't be playing that every day, all the time, week after week. So what I would do, quite surprisingly, we would zip away from retro gaming completely, and I'd have to go with Grand Theft Auto 5, on the PlayStation 4, because you could just go exploring on that forever. I've been meaning to do another video of that, been jumping back in for a while, but it takes quite a long time to do and upload. Probably slightly longer than this video. I don't know how long we've been talking so far. Definitely got to split it up into parts. So it'd be Grand Theft Auto 5 with cheats on as well, so I can do lots of different vehicles, fly around and cause absolute havoc. And you could like go online with that as well, can't you? Now, I just remember I do own Grand Theft Auto 5, but only on the PlayStation 3. I don't tend to go online with it because everyone's a GTA 4ing. Okay, right. How long have we been talking for? Let's check. Okay, so getting back to the sort of length I wanted this to be, it looks like it's going to be a 3-parter then. No doubt people put more questions in and might end up being a 4-parter. But anyway, we'll finish with Inner Flap's question, and it's asked, if wheels were banned from tomorrow, which could happen, there could be a surprise banning, which method of transport would you choose? Why have you picked these 2 options? Pogo stick or space hopper? Well, if those 2 options weren't there, I'd probably go for hovercraft, because that doesn't have any wheels on it, and it can go over land, it can go over sea, It can go anywhere, go over deserts and all that sort of stuff. But you've selected, my options are pogo stick or space hopper. Both of those require quite a bit of effort, don't they? I don't know if you've ever tried to have a go on a pogo stick, but they are very, very difficult. I mean, it's even worse than that pogo stick Spectrum game I reviewed quite recently. Pogo sticks, yeah, I mean, they take a bit of energy to get going. So we're going to have to go, I'm afraid, for space hopper, which again is not the most best form of transport. Trains have wheels as well, don't they? So we can't use a train. So it'd have to be a space hopper. And I think we'll then declare this the end of Q&A part 1. Part 2 will probably go out on Monday or Tuesday, so look out for that. As again, if I didn't come to your questions, don't feel hard done by. I have written them down and I'm really looking forward to getting to them because there's some absolute peaches there as they were in these. So thank you again, everyone that's asked questions so far. Look out for part 2 and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Goodbye.
Goodbye.